Thanks everybody for coming tonight and welcome. I just wanted to say a few thanks on behalf of the Santa Clara Council PTA. We'd like to thank the candidates for coming and participating in our candidate forum, and thank the League of Women Voters for providing the moderators, question sorters, and timers. And also thank the student volunteers from Presentation High School and from Wilcox High School for assisting. And also to any parents that are here that came out to watch the candidate forum, thank you for coming out. I'm going to turn it over to Gloria from the League of Women Voters to begin.
Thank you. I want to, I know we've got great competition, that the national debates are happening, so however, I believe strongly that all politics are local, and this is an important local issue, that of education, so thank you very much for being here. My name is Gloria Chun-Hu. I'm a member of the League of Women Voters, and I'll serve as moderator, and will be working to make this as informative and as educational as possible. The sponsor of the forum this evening is not only sponsored by the League, but also by the Santa Clara Unified Council of PTAs, and we want to thank them for making this possible. A few words about the League. The League of Women Voters, which is almost 100 years old, started during the suffragette movement, is a nonprofit organization of men and women, and we were established to promote political responsibility through informed and active participation in government. It is very important for you to know that the League never supports, opposes, or evaluates political candidates or parties. This policy refers, however, not to our positions on items of action. For example, the League, after careful study, will take positions on political issues, such as the 17 ballot measures that you will be voting on in the state. For that, you should go to the League of Women Voters website to find out if you want to know what the League thinks about some of these 17 issues. The League also wants to invite any of you, if you are 16 and older, to be interested and are interested in government, to think about becoming a member of the League of Women Voters. I will tell you, it's an educational experience. It's a wonderful experience to really delve into issues that are so important to you, to all of us. The format for today's forum will be as follows. Each candidate will have a 1-minute opening statement. Next, the candidates will respond to questions from the audience. So I think there are some of our lovely Presentation High School students, their hands are waved, who have cards and pencils. When you have a question, wave your hand and they'll come and pick it up and they'll bring it to our table here. All questions are being reviewed by League members sitting behind me. They're looking to make sure that the questions are reasonable. They'll put together questions that are duplicative. And most important, we are looking for questions that we believe will provide you information about the candidates. Each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to each question, and each person has 1 rebuttal card that they can use during this evening. And at the end, which we'll thinking about 7:50, we will close it down to questions and allow closing statements. And each candidate will have a 30-second closing statement. And I will ask to keep us on track and on time. We have our timekeeper, Marie Arnold, one of our League members, along with 2 Presentation High School students who are going to do the stopwatch using their iPhones, I think, or their cell phones. And the cards, Marie, if you can hold them up so our audience can see them, there will be, is that a 30-second? Yes. And then a 15-second and a stop. The important one is a stop. We will ask that you don't have to stop abruptly. You may finish your sentence, but kindly do stop. And in the interest of time and decorum, we ask all of you in our audience to hold off on any applause or any boos or hiss, which I'm sure you would not do. And just please take this opportunity for something we haven't been seeing much on the national stage, civil discussion and the decorum that's appropriate to the electoral process. We also ask you now to take a minute to, if you have cell phones, to, at this time, take them out and to silence those phones. Now, let me introduce the candidates who are here tonight. They are 4 of the 5 who are running for Santa Clara Unified School District. As those of you in Santa Clara know, there are elections for 2 of the trustee areas. For the trustee area 3, there are 2 candidates running for 1 seat, and the 2 candidates are Michelle Ryan and Anna Welsh. In trustee area 2, there are 3 candidates running for 2 seats. The 3 candidates are Albert Gonzalez and Mark Richardson and Ashish Mangla. Regrettably, we have invited and asked Ashish Mangla to join us. We have not heard back. There is a possibility he will join us late, but as of this time, he's not here. But we are planning to move forward with the 4 who are here with us, and we appreciate their time. So now, without further ado, I would like to start by asking our candidates to make their opening statement, and they drew numbers in the green room, and the first person will be Michelle Ryan, followed by Anna Welsh, then Mark Richardson and Albert Gonzalez, much as you see here at the, in the front. And then we will move around with questions. So we'll start with Ms. Ryan. Just a minute.
4 years ago, you elected me to the Santa Clara Unified School Board by more votes than any candidate in the last 20 years, based on my message that the district must do more to meet the community's demand for higher quality academic choices for our students. With that trust, I have worked to purchase property to build 3 new schools in the district, establish 2 STEM leadership institutes, open Central Park Elementary, bring millions of additional dollars to the district through the RDA settlement, and hire a disciplined fiscal leader to ensure that district funds are spent responsibly. But there is still more work to be done. Milliken Elementary, for example, continues to have extraordinarily long wait lists, and the latest SBAC test results show that Santa Clara Unified's performance lags behind county averages in both English and math. As the only credentialed teacher on the school board, I have always put the needs of students and families first in making decisions, and I will continue to do so over the next 4 years. Thank you for your continued support.
Thank you. Ms. Welsh.
Thank you. I want to thank the PTA Council and the League of Women Voters for hosting this event tonight, and I'm excited to be here and share who I am. I'm a parent, and I'm also an employee of the Santa Clara Unified, parent of 3 kids, one who has graduated from Santa Clara Unified and is a sophomore currently in Washington State. My son is here, who is a junior at Santa Clara High, and my 5th grader is here, who is at Washington Open. I'm currently a librarian at Washington Open, and I have been an employee for 17 years in the district. I was a preschool teacher at Wilson Preschool, and I also was the parent education coordinator at our adult ed site. I have 17 years of building positive relationships in our district, and I feel that what's coming for our district is growing and we are changing, and it's more important than ever that we have positive-mannered folks on the school board that can collaborate and connect students in the classroom and increase communication in our district. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Richardson.
Thank you, League. Thank you, PTA Council. Thank you, Gloria, for inviting me here tonight. My name is Mark Richardson, and I'd like to tell you about myself and why I'm running. I was born in San Mateo to a family of teachers. My wife, Caroline, and I moved into the district in 2000. We have 2 sons that attend schools in the district. For work, I'm a real estate broker, and I've been fortunate to work with many families and build long-lasting community ties with them. But my relevant experience to run for school board is as a volunteer in the schools. In 1995, I started with a school called The Foundry, an at-risk school in San Jose. Since then, I formed a nonprofit that sends at-risk kids to college. I worked with Fremont High School in its AVID program, setting up mock interviews. And since I've begun to run, I've enjoyed the endorsements of the United Teachers of Santa Clara, the Chamber PAC, the Democratic Club. So I'm here to bring my business experience. I'm interested in being a collaborative board member, and I want to work for the underserved students here. So thanks very much.
Thank you. Mr. Gonzalez?
The 8 years that I've served on the school board have really given me the tools to make sure that I can succeed as far as being the advocate for students on the board. The student population definitely needs somebody to advocate for them. Our parents require and demand that our students get the highest quality education that they deserve. Being on the board for 8 years has really given me the experience to make the difficult decisions that we had to make in the first 4 years when we were going through tough fiscal periods. Also, those decisions were done to keep things away from the classroom. So we were able to bring back things like in-house suspensions, bring back items like restorative justice. Also, make a new career track so that we have our students graduating with A through G requirements and also the career technical ready. So depending on whether they want to do university, go straight into a career, they have that ability. And to do that, we've actually hired more counselors and more wellness counselors to do that. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to start with questions. We'd like to throw it around a little bit. So I'm going to start with a what we call our lightning rod question. Please give us 3 qualities that you feel make you an expert or a very good school board member. And we'll start with Ms. Walsh, Mr. Richardson, Mr. Gonzalez, and then Ms. Ryan. 3 or qualities that you feel you have that qualify you to be an excellent board member, trustee.
This is a great question. Thank you. And pretty easy for me to answer. I would say I'm a great communicator. I collaborate quite easily, and I look forward to working with people. And lastly, I connect easily with students.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson.
Thank you. The 3 qualities that I bring to this board and to other boards that I've been a part of, one, it took me 36 years to acquire, but I have become a listener. I actually listen to people, and that serves me very well working with a board of 7. The second quality that I bring is I have a variety of experience in my background, from business, from volunteer work, from being a father of kids in the district. I think it really gives me a wide background to work with. And the last is that for the past 21 years, I've worked with students of all types, different ages, including my sons. And it lets me focus on the student. So I feel like I can always keep the student's best interests in mind.
Mr. Gonzalez.
I can also say that I'm a very good listener as well. I think that it's really important to be able to listen to the community's needs and those of the parents and students to make sure that we offer them the resources that they require to make sure that they can succeed in this environment. Collaboration is also one of my tools that I have that skill as far as being able to bring people together and make sure that they can work together. That can be seen in the way that our Santa Clara City Liaison Committee has come together to do great things to make sure that we finally have a nice quad area in the Bookster Middle School, and also with the collaboration that we even did today with the unveiling of the Footsteps to Brilliance program, where we're going to have a Rising Readers program where students are going to be able to get online and basically learn, to read at an early level. Basically early level between years 1 through 5. And lastly is the right temperament. Make sure that, whatever we have as far as that we always focus on students and not on our own political or own experiences as far as what we want to do, but focus on the students. So the right temperament as well.
Okay. I'm now going to ask another question.
Wait, I didn't
answer. Oh, I'm sorry. That always happens to me. Ms. Ryan.
Fine, yeah. So I think the 3 qualities that others have said, I think one of those is listening. And I think particularly through my experience as a school administrator, I often run meetings where parents and teachers come in and they may have had some very contentious conversations before, and really being able to listen and understand both sides and help both sides kind of see each other's point of view, listen to the concerns and try to get to resolution. I think that's a really important quality. The second quality that I bring is knowledge of education. I'm the only credentialed teacher and administrator on the board. I have extensive background in education. My career has been spent in education, teaching everywhere from university level all the way down to elementary level. And that experience is no one else has that on the board. And then finally, the experience of bringing diverse groups of people together, people of diverse interests, to work together on a common cause. I think that's another quality that I share.
Thank you. Apologize for that misstep there.
It's okay.
Okay, I'm looking at the next question, and the order we'll start with Mr. Gonzalez, Mr. Richardson, Ms. Ryan, and end with Ms. Walsh. And the question is, and this is a 1-minute response, what strategies do you have to ensure that Santa Clara Unified School District recruits and retains a highly competent teaching staff?
So we've done different things here at Santa Clara. We've have programs to not only support the teachers to bring them in, but also to support teachers once they're already here. So we have our housing program for our teachers. Once they're here, we can keep them here and try to make sure that they're closer to schools so that they don't have a long commute. But the other thing is we've been very competitive in what we're doing with our salaries, and we've been able to, the last few years, to be able to make sure that we provide for our teachers a little bit more than we could during the tough times with the economic cycle that we had here starting in 2007. So that has been a positive for us, where we've been able to not only be competitive in our salaries, but also be able to bring in more high-quality teachers and work with different entities such as the County School Board of Education, so that they have different programs, not only for teachers, but also for our classified and our special ed teachers, so that we can bring them in and provide different opportunities for them to come in with.
Mr. Richardson?
I understand that the district has become very proactive recently regarding the hiring and retention of teachers. As I mentioned in the beginning, both my parents were teachers, so I grew up hearing about the pluses and the minuses of the profession. I understand that recently there were 140 teachers hired on the spot. The district was very proactive in the way they would offer contracts immediately, which appeals to some teachers. I understand there was a significant salary increase in the most recent negotiations. But I think that something that can always be developed more is culturing good relationships with teachers and the union, and understanding what their needs are and what they're thinking about. How can they their strengths be developed, and listening to them when they go through the process that's so important of working with their children.
Thank you. Ms. Ryan?
Yes. Well, I think salaries are important, and I'll hopefully have a chance to talk about that too. But I think the bottom line is, and I say that as someone who's been a school administrator and had to create a school culture where teachers wanted to be teaching, is that we really want to focus on creating an environment where teachers are excited to be at work, that they're doing things that are interesting and engaging and helping them feel like they're developing as professionals. And that, for me, is an exciting thing that we can do as a district to help keep and retain the best teaching staff. Of course, we want to have salaries that are competitive. We may never be the highest salary in the county, but we want to make sure that our salaries and our benefits are competitive to attract and retain those teachers. But I think creating that culture where teachers are excited to come and teach every day is the best thing we can do to encourage, to attract and retain great teachers.
Thank you. Ms. Welch?
Thank you. I think, so we have an HR staff administrator who works on this, and I've heard him speak in numerous occasions. And I know that they are going out and recruiting, and they're at job fairs and things like that. But providing a livable wage in order to survive in this valley has to be recognized, and it has to be supported. And so that we start there, because if they can't live in this valley, buy groceries, and live in a house, we're going to be stuck there first. Second, I would say collaboration. They want time together. They've been educated in this field, and they want to be able to share their ideas. So providing professional development and time during their workday so that they can work together and share ideas and implement those best practices.
Thank you. The next question will start with Mr. Richardson, Ms. Welch, Mr. Gonzalez, and Ms. Ryan. And you've touched upon teachers. This next question has to do with relationships. Can you share your thoughts as a board member, what kinds of relationships you feel would be best, your thoughts about the importance of your relationship with employees in the district and their leaders? What should that relationship be in effective school board members?
I think relationships are vital to getting anything done, and not just yours, but yours as one of 7 on the board. You know, it takes a lot of different employees to have a successful district. We talk about teachers a lot, but there's a classified union. There are 1,650 employees in the district, and they all need to be heard and feel like they're respected, in my opinion. As I said, I don't know if I got my volunteerism from my parents, but I grew up with this, and if you don't have a good working relationship and people don't feel like they can speak to you, you're really at an impasse. Every day at work, all I do is work on relationships with people. And sometimes you don't see eye to eye with people, you disagree, but you have to learn to respectfully disagree.
Ms. Welsh?
Thank you. I would say that, first of all, relationships are key. You can't move forward if you don't have a working relationship with all of the stakeholders that are involved. I have laid the groundwork for 17 years in this district with teachers, with parents, and even with students. I have that time in, and I have positive working relationships that because of those things I've done. When I was parent education coordinator, I hosted Parent University, and I would have to reach out to the principals and the teachers and seek parents that would be speakers, and then I would engage the parents to come and hear all of the workshops that were available, and we were able to create a great day where parents could gain some really great tools, and it was because of my relationships in the district, and none of that has changed. So,
thank you, Mr. Gonzalez.
I think relationships are key as well. They're important not only within the staff and how the board interacts with staff and teachers, the administration, and the district office staff, but also with the board itself. And if people find it difficult to be able to be part of what the board is basically a team, and if that relationship is not solidified, it doesn't mean that we always agree on things, but if people don't let bygones be bygones and move on and focus on what is important with our students, then it really hinders the team, which is the board, and how that team works together, not only with itself, but also with the administration and with the staff. But it is key. We've started within our district a collaborative for our associations, our unions, to work together with the board and the administration to make sure that we solidify that amongst the 3 different levels as far as unions, teachers, classified, and also the administration.
Thank you, Ms. Ryan.
Yes. What I expect as a teacher and as an administrator is to have positive working relationships with the board members and the district administration where I've worked before. And as a board member, that's also what I expect. I expect to have positive working relationships with staff and other stakeholders. We have parents and students who are also stakeholders, and we need to ensure that we have positive relationships and that we're listening to all of those stakeholders. I think we've done some great work in the last 4 years with our management labor partnerships. We're working together collaboratively to move forward, to talk about shared interest and working together collaboratively. And I think that's been a really important development in the last 4 years.
Thank you. We've talked a little bit about relationships between board and staff, and we've talked about recruitment. Now, this next question has to do with the community. And we'll do it in this order. We'll start with Ms. Welsh, Mr. Gonzalez, Ms. Ryan, and with Mr. Richardson. And the question is, Santa Clara is a diverse community with a variety of needs. How have you reached out to these different communities during your campaign, and what will you do if elected? I presume if elected and in terms of reaching out to these communities. We'll start with Ms. Welsh.
Thank you. This is a great question, and it speaks to the things that are important to me. Community matters, and that's what I say all the time to my friends. what have I done? I have reached out to school sites, reached out to parent organizations, done a lot of door-to-door walking and actually listening and talking to parents, talking with our teachers' unions, our classified staff union, and just finding out what's the need right now. What are your concerns? Where do you want to see the district go? And when you do step out of your own comfort space, when you do go out into the community and you let people talk, then you do get to find out what the needs are. And we are growing and we are changing, and it's really important that we can hear the needs of our community.
Thank you. Mr. Gonzalez?
As far as this election cycle, it's always nice to run because you get to meet the community, you get to engage more with the community, knock on doors, and talk to the voters and see what it is that they desire and their needs. And there's always that opportunity for them to address you. But it's really an engaging time for I think for candidates in general, and I think that's one of the things that I like as far as being able to run again. But as far as a diverse community, the skills that I bring to that are skills that being bilingual and being able to speak Spanish and being able to work with folks, not only in English and Spanish, but the different cultures that exist. We are very, really privileged to live here in Santa Clara and see the different communities that exist here and how we interact. I think that's one of the things that we've really engaged as far as the district to make sure that we address the different needs of the community. And it's something that it's an ongoing process, but it's something that we're working hard to do. And just as far as collaboration, being able to be endorsed by both the chamber and also the unions is something that you usually don't find in a candidate, and that's something that I was able to do.
Ms. Ryan?
Yeah, it's been great being out over the last several months, meeting voters, meeting people in different communities, because we are a very diverse community and have a lot of diverse interests, some that the district isn't necessarily meeting. Because it's not just families who have children in our district that is our community. Our community is much bigger than that. And what I find walking around is a lot of families who don't choose our district, and we really need to understand them and understand their concerns and why they haven't chosen our district and what we need to do to serve those families more. I have talked about this for a number of years, but we have waitlist at Millikan that are almost 800 students, and that's a situation that's existed for over 10 years now. That's a segment of our community that we don't seem to be listening to as a district, and I think we need to understand that. We've also seen some concerns. I've met whole streets of families that send their children to private schools because they don't feel the district is serving their needs. And so when we talk about listening to the community and listening to the diversity in our community, we really need to listen to all voices.
Thank you. Mr. Richardson?
It really is a diverse community. It's amazing to me. Growing up on the peninsula when I did, I don't remember all the different faces that I see now, and it's very interesting to me. Early this month, I started a pilot mentoring program at Wilson, which is a high school in the district that does independent studies, kids that aren't thriving. I'm hoping soon that I'll get to start to volunteer weekly at New Valley, which is a school for students who aren't doing well at all in the district. Through the the campaigning, I've gotten to meet a wider variety of teachers, admins, employees, and it's fascinating to hear what they have to say. So the diversity is great. It does interest me. And what's unique for me is working with students. I really enjoy it. I've done it before my sons were born, and it helps me keep my ears open to what the diverse population needs.
Thank you. We're going to do a lightning round, and I should have explained earlier. Lightning round means you just do it very quickly. So, 10, 15 seconds ought to do it. Okay? And we're just going to go down the row one time for the lightning round. We'll start with you, Ms. Ryan, then Ms. Welch, then Mr. Richardson, and Mr. Gonzalez. And the question is, what subjects in school were 1, your worst, and 2, your best?
Well, my best actually was debate and speech. I loved that course, and the teacher is still... a friend of mine actually nearly ran for governor and said that she changed his life, and I think she's influenced mine. My worst subject. I didn't enjoy history, actually, which I often tell people because then I went on to earn a PhD in history, but I didn't enjoy it in high school.
Ms. Welsh.
I would say social studies were my best, and science was not my favorite, but it has since changed.
Mr. Richardson.
I hated math. I was bad at math, and then I lost confidence in math, and that's where you struggle as a student. I was really good in English because I'm creative, and I did well.
Mr. Gonzalez.
I would say I didn't like English as much, but definitely math was the one subject that I really liked, and being an engineer I think is important, I guess.
Well, actually, I'm going to think a little bit about that question about being an engineer, and the next question has to do with technologies in the school. And it has to do with how you feel about whether or not the school district is doing enough in bringing technology into the classroom, and your thoughts about how to continue to keep up to date because technology is an always evolving issue. We'll start with you, Mr. Gonzalez. We'll then go to Ms. Ryan, Mr. Richardson, and then Ms. Welsh.
So technology is one of the tools that we can definitely use. In the district, we've decided not to go to a one-to-one device per student, and that's a decision that the staff made. But you want technology to be a tool that the teachers use to enhance education, not just to exchange, a pencil for a laptop. And I think that's something that we've been very thoughtful of as far as how we implement it. We've actually have grants through Altera that we've worked to implement not only a learning environment for our teachers, but also for the county as well, where teachers go to our school, Catherine Hughes, to learn how to implement technology in their classroom, but also how it's used as well, and how you do curriculum around that. So it's important, but I think it's something that we definitely need to make sure we have. But how you thoughtfully implement it is what you have to do. And as a board, obviously, we don't decide on what is done or what's not done. But one of the things that I like to do is basically when you manage, you basically give the resources to the teachers and have them implement them.
Ms. Ryan?
Yes. This is one area where I think we've made a lot of progress in the last 4 years. I know that when I first joined the board, my husband actually took a look at the technology plan and said, well, that's a great plan if you don't really plan to do anything, but if you want to do something, you need something different. And in the last 4 years, we have revised our technology plan and really made that a priority. Technology is a big expense, and you want to do that thoughtfully. And you know that it's not, you can't just build it once and it's done. It's something that's a recurring expense. So you want to be able to, when you make those decisions about spending on technology, you make them wisely and you think about the future. I think there are opportunities as we expand our technology in the classrooms for blended learning and personalized learning. But there's also not necessarily the district providing the devices, but some districts have gone to bring your own device. And that's been a way of bringing more technology into the schools. I've also been an advocate for more computer science. That was something that came up my first year on the board, that we weren't offering enough computer science, the amount of computer science our students wanted. And so I've been a big advocate in my 4 years on the board for more computer science.
Thank you. Mr. Richardson.
Technology is a major part of our students' lives. All of you who are parents know this. It's a good thing and a bad thing. It's constantly changing, and I find that students are the experts at knowing what new software is out there, what new machines are coming out. As far as technology in the schools, I think the district has done a really good job in an ever-changing landscape. There are constraints, there are firewalls, there are laws regarding technology in schools, so we can't have a haphazard plan. However, I do think there's an enormous opportunity to work with local businesses who want to work with us. We are in the backyard of these global companies that would love to work with us, and I think there's more room for partnership with these companies.
Thank you. Ms. Welch?
Thank you. Technology, when I'm walking door to door with voters, next to Common Core, this is the biggest question. Why aren't we doing more? We live in the Silicon Valley. And when I talk to voters, I share, we have to be actually mindful that there's two things that are happening, right? The safety of the kids has to be there. When you have technology in a public school setting, you have to make sure that the, like Mark said, the firewalls and the safety, so that the kids are using it as a tool and it's not for something else. And then secondly, that the system is actually working. So we want both of those things to be going well. I agree with Mark with the partners. I think that we can be doing more with corporations that are close by and in our cities or neighboring cities. And I also think that some of our policies are cumbersome, so we could look at that. But ultimately, supporting and training our staff so that they can use these within the classroom, I feel, is the role of the board.
We'll start now with the next question, a follow-up to that on technology, and I'm going to make this a semi-lightning rod question. So 30 seconds at max, okay. So the comment here from someone in the audience is that I have learned that there are very few people on district staff who are able to support computers in the district. So there's concern about whether we have the competency within the school district. So the question is, one, do you know what the budget is for technology and how is it managed, and do you feel it's adequate? I will start with Ms. Ryan, then Ms. Welch, Mr. Richardson, and then Mr. Gonzalez.
So I don't have the budget number off the top of my head about how much we're spending on technology, but I do know that in the last 4 years, we've brought on staff who are very expert. Joe is our technology coordinator has brought in done some really great work in bringing technology, expanding and updating the technology that we have, and I think there's always room to do more in that area.
Thank you, Ms. Welch.
I agree with Dr. Ryan. There's always room to do more. I do know that it is one of our 9 strategic objectives for the strategic plan for the next 5 years. So I know that our administrators, our staff, our teachers are aware of this, and they really are working hard. And they will, I believe in them. I believe that they will find out those best practices, things that are happening within our own district, find out what's happening in neighboring districts, and be able to bring those in. And then I hope as a board that we will be able to support and that implementation further.
Mr. Richardson.
I would say that as far as technology goes, you could have 7 board members and 15 different opinions. It is changing so fast, and students are exposed to it so frequently that the best plan for me would be to have one where students are encouraged to explore. And whether that is currently funded well or not is something that any board is going to continue to look at. But I think that it is a broad conversation.
Mr. Gonzalez.
So there's never enough money to do everything you want to do, but we're very thoughtful as far as how we spend the money. Joe Zelig, our ITG person who manages that department, is the person who's leading that effort. As far as how we use technology in the district, even from the boardroom, you have to set an example. And the board, in the last couple of years, we've gone to basically what they call Agenda Online, which is a technology tool that you're using and try to get rid of some paper, save some trees. So if you mentor that from the top down, you'll see that things are changing. And we're definitely investing in that line. And we've hired more people at the different sites so that our teachers don't have to fight technology but are enabled by it.
Okay. Well, we'll change subjects now, and the question is, what are your thoughts on charter schools and their place in Santa Clara Unified School District? What is your perspective on charter schools and their place in the district? We'll start with Ms. Walsh, then Mr. Anderson, Mr. Gonzalez, and then Ms. Ryan. Ms. Walsh?
Thank you. Let's see. I'm pretty confident to say I'm against charters. I've been an advocate for public schools and the safety nets that are in place for public schools because it benefits our kids. When charter schools come into particularly low-income neighborhoods, they are sold on this idea that they're going to get an education that doesn't match or is different than the public school. And sometimes they don't have those safety nets in place. They don't have the unions there. They don't have credentialed teachers. They don't have the things that allow the students to move forward and to get all of their measures that we do in public schools and how kids learn. And so I don't hide it very easily. I'm a complete and 100% advocate for public schools.
Mr. Richardson.
Right now, there are no charter schools in this district. there are many different opinions about charters, and in the research I've done, it seems that certain states, other than California, have had success with charters. The students are being served very well. It seems like California as a state does not have adequate oversight for charters. Now, you could talk to the parent that I met at Santa Clara's Art and Wine Festival, whose child is absolutely thriving, and to her, they're the best thing in the world. But I think that unless state oversight improved, right now we're not in a situation where charters, as a broad topic, seem to fare very well. We would hope that a public education can serve every student. And I know it's not 100% successful to every parent, but we can work with staff, work with teachers to do our best.
Thank you. Mr. Gonzalez?
So I'll just start by saying that charter schools are publicly funded, but they're not public schools. They don't have the oversight. They don't have the Brown Act laws. There's certain laws, the open meeting laws, transparency that public schools have. So they're not, even though they're publicly funded, they're not public schools. I know that our community sometimes, we do have students that go to charter schools, but as far as what we provide here in Santa Clara and what we're continuing to provide with the opening of Central Park this year and the north side schools that are going to be opening up, you're finding that we have a very diverse, basically a very diverse types of schools from Milliken to Washington Open, and obviously there's never enough room for parents, but I've talked specifically with colleagues of mine who have wanted to go to different schools, and once they go visit one of our local schools, whether it's their own school, you find that they really change their minds as far as going to outside the district. So it's just a matter of selling and providing the schools that are basically our families need.
Thank you, Ms. Mitchell. Ms. Ryan.
Yeah, so first of all, we need to correct some misinformation. Charter schools are public schools. They are tuition-free. They do have oversight. The Brown Act does apply to charter governance, and there is oversight by the charter authorizers. So there is oversight. But bottom line, charter schools are about parent choice, and I will defend parent choice from here to the eternity. We need to trust parents to know what's best for their child. And prior to charter schools are tuition-free. They are public schools. Parents who wanted a different option only had private schools to choose from. Now there's an option of charter schools. Are there good charter schools and bad charter schools? Certainly. Are there good district schools and good bad charter school, good and bad district schools at different districts? Certainly. So we need to focus on parent choice and what parents choose to do. Charter schools don't exist if parents don't choose them. We don't have any charter schools in our district, and I would respect the staff evaluation if any charter schools were to come before the board.
Okay. Let's turn to another subject, and this has to do with the achievement gap. There quite often is an achievement gap within school systems. There's a concern by a member in the audience that we need to work to improve the student achievement, improve achievement as a whole, and maybe also just achievement gap. But what would you do to improve student achievement in the district and also make it equitable for all? We'll start with Mr. Gonzalez, Mr. Richardson, Ms. Ryan, and then Ms. Walsh. Mr. Gonzalez.
So I would change the term achievement gap, because achievement gap basically talks about a gap that exists between students that start from the same spot. I look at it more as an opportunity gap. So basically having our students have the same opportunities, provide them the resources to be able to succeed. Because when you talk about achievement, you're basically putting everything on the student versus trying to find what are the resources that they don't have. I could tell you from having parents that had a first and third grade education, there were certain things that they could not help me with. And if our students don't have the resources at home that let's say parents who have either bachelor's or master's or PhDs have at home, there's going to be a different resources that they have at home. And as far as the achievement gap, it's the opportunity gap that we're trying to resolve here. And having the resources and providing the resources, not only with high quality teachers, but providing the teachers with the staff, with the wraparound services that we're working on to bring to Santa Clara that's really going to enable that opportunity gap to go away.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson.
I like Mr. Gonzalez's use of the term opportunity gap. When we're talking about individuals, when we're talking about students, I don't like talking about something in the form of a negative. It is a real thing, though, an opportunity gap or an achievement gap. It's important to see where students are thriving and where they are not, and helping the ones that are not so that they can get better. Students have a wide range of living situations at home, and those students going home to an empty house with mom and dad working 4 jobs to pay the PG&E bill have a different situation than those that come home to people who have a different socioeconomic position. So I understand that the district does have programs in place, it has interventions, and I'm very interested in seeing those grow so that students thrive.
Ms. Ryan, and then Ms. Walsh, and I'm sorry, we're going to run a few minutes over time. I wasn't watching the clock.
Okay.
So this will be our last question.
Okay. I think we need to ensure that we're serving all students, whether we call it the achievement gap or the opportunity gap. We need to ensure as a district that we're serving all students, we provide what all students need to succeed. And I think this came up on the school board recently because we had previously a policy about suspended students, and that suspended students would have the right to not be academically penalized if they missed work during their suspension. The teacher could mark it excused or could give them additional work, but suspended students wouldn't automatically get an academic penalty in addition to their disciplinary consequence. What was interesting to me is that all 4 student board reps worked together to tell us as a board that we should not change this policy. It was important to them, and they all knew students who would have suffered if the policy had been different. And unfortunately, we as an entire board did not listen to those students when they spoke to us about what we needed and what those students needed to achieve. And as a board, I think we need to listen to the students.
Ms. Welsh.
Thank you. So the achievement gap, or the opportunity gap, I like that terminology as well, is real. And when I attend board meetings, I can sense the seriousness of it that comes from our staff. They take it very seriously. And they work hard to improve it and increase the opportunities. I do think right now the state has identified subgroups that need that extra support. Kids that are coming from foster care, children that are even homeless, English language learners, children with special needs, and families with low income. So there is funding at the state level that's coming down to the local level to support that. But again, it's adopting best practices that are currently in our district, looking at other districts where we can pull in those best practices, and having trust in our teachers and our staff to do the right thing for those students. Thank you.
I'm going to just, with the, I'm sorry. May I ask the audience's indulgence for one last question, or do we need to wrap it up? Are we okay? There are so many more questions. I've been trying to shift through them to see which ones we could do. I think I'm just going to end with this one last question, which has been asked in several different ways, and we're going to make this a lightning round questions, and we'll start at the other end, since we've often started with Ms. Ryan. We'll start with Mr. Gonzalez. What is the one top issue or priority you feel needs to be addressed by the school district?
So as far as growth in our district, you've seen a lot of growth. So we've had parents and community that has really been engaged in how we deal with that. So we've done mitigation things with developers. So what you find is that when you work with developers and they pay double the statutory rate, there's certain things that come. What they call it a community benefit, but basically it's a benefit for the schools to be able to address the facilities, and that's really the one thing that in bringing class sizes down, which is something that we want to do and we're doing, it's basically a facilities issue, which it comes down to, and making sure that everybody pays their fair share is what we've pushed them to do.
Mr. Richardson?
I think the singular focus of the district needs to be students, needs to be young people. There are plenty of topics that may seem like they aren't directly student related, but they all are. They all come back to students. And at times we've all read in the last few years about things that just seem like adult nonsense, and I'd like to see no more of that, and I'd like to see an underlying, at all times, focus on student success.
Thank you. Ms. Welch?
Thank you. I would say teaching and learning, learning and teaching. I want us to focus on kids being in class, being connected to the kid next to them, feeling connected to their teacher. I want teachers to be able to collaborate with each other. That's what our focus should be about, teaching and learning and teaching.
Thank you. Ms. Ryan?
I think the biggest priority for the district and our top focus needs to be on ensuring that we meet the needs of our community. And that's expressed in a number of different ways. We need to be sure that we're serving our students, that our students are getting what they need from our schools, that we have the academic programs that our families in the community are seeking, that our students are achieving at the levels that we would like them to achieve, and that we're supporting them along the way.
I'm just going to mention some of the topics that did not come up if we didn't have time to. So that, if you would like to address it in your 30-second close, you might touch on it.
A minute and a half.
Or we can give you each a minute and a half. You all want to use your rebuttal card, so with the, you don't have to use it all, but you might. I just want to mention that people have been asking a number of other questions about Common Core, its implementation, your thoughts about going into the 21st century and whether or not you feel our students are prepared, engaging parents more in the discussion, and the massive growth that's happening in Silicon Valley and how that affects. And then finally, there was a question I'm sorry we didn't get to, which is, what have you read about recently in the trends in education that excite you? So I'm just tossing that out as some possibilities you might address that some of the parents here have asked questions about. So since we started the opening with Ms. Ryan, we're going to go backwards and start with Mr. Gonzalez for your minute or minute and a half close. If you choose, or you can do a 30-second close, as we originally decided, then Mr. Richardson, Ms. Walsh, and we'll close with Ms. Ryan. Mr. Gonzalez.
So I'll do the minute and a half. As far as our Common Core implementation, we have our staff is really at the forefront of looking into this and has worked to implement this. We have really one of the greatest staff. Santa Clara Unified has always been looked at as a beacon within the Santa Clara County community as far as where teachers, administrators have come from. So what you find is that many times our teachers and staff are taken or kind of poached sometimes to go to other districts. So, we have a really strong culture. What we find here in the last recent years with the resources that this board has been able to provide is that we're accomplishing more. Obviously, we're not where we want to be yet, but as far as the parents will choose our schools more than other schools. What you find is the charter school that existed in El Viso, its demise was that our schools were attracting more students than they could enroll. So they, and Downtown College Trip is a school which I know the founder, and it's a school that I do believe that as far as a charter, it's a charter that is doing good things out there in San Jose. But it just could not survive in Santa Clara because of the diverse options that we have for our students. As far as the 21st century, what you find if you go into our classrooms, you'll see different things. We're changing things from as minimal as desks, where students who maybe have ADHD and are a little fidgety, they can move around their feet with some of the desks that we're doing and some of the new things that we're doing at also Central Park and looking at different ways that students learn.
Thank you. Mr. Richardson.
I don't know if I'm going to use my little green card. I think I'm going to be about 48 seconds, so young lady, please time me and see how close I get. There are a lot of topics we didn't cover tonight that are important to parents. There are things like Common Core, preparation of our students for their adult lives, and there are things like restorative justice, programs where there's student-led initiatives, and all of these things sometimes come from parents as fear. We're fearful our children won't thrive and be happy and live good lives, and I don't like to think that way. I like to think that we give them the lead that they need to go out and be strong and do what they need to do. I want to thank the League and the PTA Council for inviting me. Thank you to the audience for coming tonight and spending your time tonight. November 8th is an important election. We've all read about it every day for other reasons than you're here tonight. But it is an important election, and school board, I found, is very important because it's about our future. It's about our sons and daughters. It's about our students. So please do take the time to vote, and I respectfully request your vote.
Thank you, Mrs. Welch.
Same. I don't think I need the full minute and a half, but I might go over 30 seconds. I want to thank the PTA Council, and I would also like to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this tonight and allowing all four of us to come and share our information with the community. I care about public schools, and I care about the public schools where I live. I want them to be successful, and that's why I decided to put my name in the hat, to be a representative for our students and for our parents, and to be a collaborator and a communicator and a listener for our community. I believe the best investment our community can make is educating our youth. I look forward to creating more opportunities that connect our students to their schools, supporting staff collaboration, and engaging more parents through communication. I also look forward to the conversations that come up with Common Core and restorative justice. I think they are very powerful things that are going to be a part of how we can best serve our students. Lastly, I believe in Santa Clara Unified, and I want to be a part of making it the best it can be for all of our students. Thank you.
Ms. Ryan.
Yes. 4 years ago, the district was in crisis after a series of financial and ethical scandals, including the 2010 grand jury report entitled Management Missteps at the Santa Clara Unified School District, the investigation into our former Assistant Superintendent for Business Services, who has now been charged with felony conflict of interest, and a principal who was arrested for allegedly selling meth. It was a dark time for our district, and it demonstrates why we need a board that will take seriously its responsibility of district governance. Our enrollment numbers tell us we need to do more to serve our community. If you are the parent of a first grader in our district and you live in certain housing categories, chances are nearly 2 out of 3 that you will choose a school outside of our district for your child by the time your child is in 6th grade. And most of this flight occurs between the 5th and 6th grade. This is a clear sign we need to do more. As the only credentialed teacher and administrator on the school board, I know what it takes to ensure that our schools meet the needs of our community. Thank you for your support.
Thank you. Let's now, this concludes the formal part of the forum, but I think it's appropriate to give our 4 candidates who are running for Santa Clara Unified School District a round of applause and thank them for their time tonight. Again, just a reminder, running for Trustee Area 3 are Michelle Ryan and Walsh. You will elect one of the 2 of them. And on Trustee Area 2, there are 2 positions open. There are 3 candidates. One of them is not here with us tonight. 2 of the others include Mr. Gonzalez and Mr. Richardson. And I'd like to just thank all of you for being a good audience, as well as our volunteers who helped to make tonight possible. I just wanted to mention to you all, and also remind our candidates, the League of Women Voters does have a website called www.votersedge.org. And Voters Edge is an online voters guide. Not only do we have information about the candidates who are running for the school district here in Santa Clara, but there is information on all of the 17 state propositions, as well as information on all the other candidates. It is an unbiased website that the League puts together thanks to its legions of volunteers throughout the state of California. It's also a good place to find information about where the money trail is and who the contributors are on all of the ballot measures, as well as on all of the candidates. Please don't forget on November 8th to vote. Encourage your neighbors who might have missed, for some reason they thought staying home and watching the presidential debates were more important. I just don't understand it. I suspect that this election will probably have more direct impact on many of their lives, especially on the lives of our children and the future. So thank them for running. I think it's courageous to spend the time, because I know it's a great deal of work, both to run and to serve. So thank you very much. Good evening, and thanks for being with us tonight.